very moved yesterday by an article and a report of George Floyd's little brother, who arrived on the scene of the protests yesterday, the scene where George Floyd was murdered. And he arrived, and of course, nobody knew what he was going to say, and certainly any anger that he would express would have been justifiable to many. He was apparently so grief-stricken that people had to hold him up. Excuse me. Excuse me. The imagery really was, for me, reminiscent, Mick, of Moses and Aaron. And he told the crowd that violence, of course, was not going to bring his brother back, and that he insisted on a peaceful form of protest. And specific to him was the very peaceful protest of voting. His advice, his direction to the crowd, being held up by other peaceful protesters in civil disobedience for what they are experiencing, was to be active, to vote, to engage in that precious First Amendment expression. You know, right here in this community, 52% of African American children live in poverty. %52. About a year ago, we launched the MLK Community Initiative. And it was in part to highlight the incredible plight of our African American brothers and sisters. There really are no words to express the horror of what has taken place in so many corners of this country as it relates to this community specifically. And I am so moved. I'm so moved by family members of George Floyd who, barely able to stand, would ask of this country an opportunity to participate as good Americans peacefully for dignity and safety of their young boys. So I apologize for being emotional up here. You hear the angst of the community, you hear the fear from all corners of this country, authentically afraid, authentically fearful, angry, and you can't help but ask, where do we go from here? And I think that the family of George Floyd are really great Americans. To call for peace, to call for action, and to give direction to the members of their community and other great Americans here, like the police chiefs and sheriffs across this country who are joining forces with other Americans and choosing to see each other as neighbors, as friends, as partners in this incredible American struggle for democracy and real representation. So I'm going to ask for a moment of silence for 46 seconds. I've been asked to provide a moment of silence by many people for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. We won't do that this morning. But I want to remind my colleagues in this community that right here in Kern County, more than half of our African American brothers and sisters' children live in sheer and utter poverty and, frankly, hopelessness. So I'm going to ask that during this 46 seconds of silence, in memory of this fellow American, to really ask ourselves, what can we do here, right here in Kern County, to address the incredible angst, inequality, and the kind of stuff that just divides us against each other. So in full respect, love, and admiration for many people in this country who are hurting and are wondering for what's next, I ask you to think now with us, how can we participate in making this community just a little more fair, a little more open, a little more opportunistic for a group that we know what this means. Thank you very much.